溺れない限り。
As I watched the episode, my big brain went like, wait, that wasn't in the manga. We will have to wait for another week to witness the whole thing. But to be very, very honest, I have a gut feeling that it would go perfectly, as in the most awkward way. And I mean, the animators are definitely Jinmao fans, because the manga and the story didn't really have them acting like that, at least not completely. And not to mention how beautifully they have animated the scene. From the waterfall to the cave, it looked amazing. And don't get me started on how pretty Jinshi looked. I honestly thought I liked him better in the manga, but this time the animators have won. And as far as the comparison with the manga goes, the animators went far and beyond in their creation, and I really, really appreciate them for that. This was the scene where I went, wait, it's not how I remember it. And when I reread the manga, I realized that I was right. And then I reread the book. The checking out scene was not there either. But then I went over to the GX manga and bingo. They literally combined the best part from the both manga versions and gave us this animation. Oh, and they also put some good amount of details in the CBR scene, which a lot of people really appreciate them for.
泳げなかったならすまなかった。
あれで泳げるわけ。
Though I kind of want to complain that we have to wait for a whole week for the next episode and was planning to post this video then, but I don't think my sanity will survive if I watch and try to explain that scene. So if you want to read it yourself and check out the different version, it's in chapter 63.1 of the official manga and chapter 51 of the GX manga. As for me, I'm gonna point out the difference in both mangas for the scene that comes later because a week is still a long time to wait.
なんだ。
This was the second assassination attempt on Jinshi. The first one was somewhat planned out by Suri, and Maomao thought that this one might be related to the envoys that came from the west. But you tell me your thoughts and theories about this before we start the second core of the anime. As for Jinshi and Maomao, they stay as Jinshi and Maomao. Like if you think that Maomao finally gets to know who Jinshi is by the next episode, and they move forward to have a decent conversation about their feelings, you are wrong. They have a long way to go until they unlock their communication skills. And after she figures out that he's not a eunuch, she goes into denial mode because she doesn't want to get caught up in any of that mess. They glared at each other for a long second, then almost a minute. Jinshi blinked first, so to speak, looking away from Maomao. Did I win? Maomao asked herself with a sigh of relief. No good ever comes from knowing too much. And for Maomao, whose birth made her suited for a little more than dull work, it was best to not know anything at all. Then whatever happened, whatever her superior might do, Maomao could say truthfully that she hadn't known anything about it. Then Jinshi's grip finally relaxed and Maomao tries to stand up, only to find herself pushed to the ground. She looks down and there he was. He shifted, crawling on top of her. A faint light, like a candle flame, danced in his eyes. Very well, he says slowly as he set his hands behind her knees and lifted them. Want to find out yourself? He asked, and Maomao got goosebumps all over and started sweating profoundly. She realized belatedly that she has pushed him too far. In this scene, the way Kurata drew her eyes was so funny to me, and I really hope that they do that in the anime too. As for the official manga, we all know what panels they will be animating from that. Okay, so Jinshi for his part looked lost for a beat. Seconds, then a minute passed, and neither of them moved. At length, Jinshi seemed to make a decision. He bit his lips and leaned forward. I wonder if I should give him a good kick. Maomao thought, but then Jinshi stopped and looked up in annoyance. What's that? He asked. Maomao thought that she heard a noise from the exit, and it was the dog we saw earlier. In short, they got distracted before the situation could escalate. Now, when I first read this scene, I was panicking, literally. But as I read ahead, I got to understand the characters to some extent. So I'd like you to know that both of them were at fault here. Maomao provoked him on purpose, and he reacted in the most Jinshi way. He didn't have any ill intentions toward her. He was just trying to win the game that they started. I mean, once you get to know their character, you'd know how much they push each other's boundaries. And it's not going to be the first time they do it. Furthermore, the animation will surely clear out this scene. Oh, and the main difference that I noticed was that in the book and the official version of the manga, she thinks, did I win? After the above scene, where she pushes his buttons by calling him a frog, a decent and slimy frog to be exact. So yeah, it looked like she thought of the whole thing as a game that needed winning, and it felt like they were portraying her as a stubborn person who won't back down no matter what. But in the GX version, I noticed that she seemed more confused than stubborn. burned. And she says, I just don't know, which looked out of frustration. So again, I'm waiting and wondering how they would play out this scene in the anime. And I'm sure that there will be people who will be disappointed after watching the next week's episode. Not because of the hyped up scene, but because of the fact that Maomao will still not know about Jinshi's true identity even when he tries his best to tell her that.
本当は
He tries for the last time again when they come back home, and they both apologizes for their behavior as they stood on the opposite side of the wall/gate. But he was still grunting, and Maomao wondered what he was thinking. She was borderline oblivious to people's feelings, partially because she had never been that interested in them, and partially because of the way she had been raised. The people of the Verdigrease house had taken good care of her when she was a baby, but work always comes first for them, and she'd often been left by herself. She would cry, but no one would come to her help until they were done with their jobs. When she grew older, she was told that she eventually stopped crying. Maybe she'd learned the lesson. Perhaps that was behind it all, and perhaps not. Maomao didn't know. But whatever the reason, she'd grown up, not very sensitive to when people felt affection, or for that matter, hatred for her. It was what allowed her to weather the storm in the Crystal Pavilion. But it also left her uncertain to what to say to Jinshi at that moment. So she didn't say anything at all. She was thinking as hard as she could, searching for the words, until she finally said, "There's nothing to say. As far as I'm concerned, you are who you are, Master Jinshi." Now, to be honest, it was a great reply to someone who has had an identity crisis. And the fact that it was her truest and most heartfelt response make it even more wholesome. And I just know that this scene will become one of my favorite ones from the anime. Anyways, after a while, he gives her the ox bezoar that she wanted and tries to tell her his real identity again. But as soon as our girl sees the ox bezoar, she forgives and forgets, comes out to thank him, and went back to daydream about it, while he stays outside calling her name. And she lays happily, thinking that if he ever finds himself cornered, his secret about to come out, then she would just make him a real eunuch. Now, I'm pretty sure that there will be people who will think that Maomao is kind of stupid for not understanding the truth that is right in front of her. Some might even get bored that they aren't going anywhere, and might even lose hope in them as a couple. But you should know that by now that Maomao has a not my circus, not my monkeys kind of mindset. Or rather, not my poodle, not my frog one. This means that she doesn't want to be dragged into anyone's drama or any issue. She doesn't like getting involved in dangerous situations, and what could be more dangerous than knowing that a man is pretending to be a eunuch? She thought that if wrong people finds out, it could destroy him. And if Maomao is caught knowing this information, it could destroy her too. So she understands that if she acknowledges the truth, then she might become responsible for it. And responsibility is risky. That's why she actively avoids even thinking about it in the later chapters. And I find it really ironic because Maomao is extremely curious when it comes to science, medicine, and poisons. She will risk her life to solve a medical mystery. But when it comes to politics and personal affairs, she stays out of that. She's not emotionally dense. She notices things, but she also knows when to stop noticing. For example, when she realized that Jinshi is too beautiful to be an ordinary eunuch, she doesn't ask questions. When she got hints of his high status, she ignores them too. When he was practically trying to spell it out for her, she still refused, because she knows that digging too deep into secrets will only bring her trouble. As for Jinshi and his feelings, I think he confuses her. She knows that he treats her differently, but she doesn't know what to do about it. She isn't used to romance or affection. She never considered herself attracted or special, so every time Jinshi flirts with her, she doesn't even accept it mentally. And instead of processing those feelings, she brushes them aside. She's already not very sensitive, but I think she also chooses not to take his emotions seriously, because acknowledging them means that she would have to deal with them. But spoilers from the later volumes, she does starts to acknowledge him and his feelings, and begin to understand her own emotions for him. Right now, she is still under development, but I'm telling you, once you understand her character, you won't even blame her for it. And as for Jinshi and his identity, don't worry about it. In the upcoming episodes, the Shi arc will take place, and you'll get to know about him there. But if you can't wait and you want to know about that, you can watch this video. And if you want the frog scene from the book, it's somewhere in this video. You can check it out if you want. And tell me your thoughts about this scene and how excited are you for the next episode. Alright, that was all for today's video. Thank you for listening to me. Take care of yourself and goodbye.
No, you'll never be the same. I don't really wanna hurt you, but I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my side, maybe we could be okay. Okay, maybe you could be the change.